Right now, on to the point. Democrats celebrating after California voters passed Proposition 50.
Tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared.
The celebration is over. Now the real work begins.
We will focus on making sure we pick up these 5 new districts.
Lawmakers preparing for the battle ahead in newly drawn districts. The government shutdown continues to drag on, the longest in history, now creating new headaches for air travelers and families feeling the impacts as communities step up to help those in need.
Young children and our seniors are suffering, and it is unacceptable.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm Alex Bell, and the redistricting battle in California continues tonight. Voters overwhelmingly approved a newly redrawn congressional map, which will be in effect for the 2026 midterm election. A new lawsuit against Prop 50 has been introduced, and more changes could also be on the way. This as votes are still being counted, but AP and ABC called the race really early last night. Here's a look at the latest numbers, with yes votes leading 64 to 36%. That's with 77% of the estimated votes still in. The election will be certified next month. Of course, we'll bring you those results as we get them in. And last night was a big win for Governor Gavin Newsom. He was at the California Democratic headquarters in Sacramento celebrating not just the win of victory for California, but also for the country, and called out other states to stand up and join the fight.
We need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York, in Illinois, in Colorado. We need to see other states with their remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well, to recognize what we're up against in 2026.
Now, minutes after Prop 50 passed last night, Congress members and candidates made announcements about their campaigns. The biggest one tonight, Democratic Congressman Ami Bera, who currently represents District 6, announced that he will run next year in District 3. Now, the newly redrawn 3 includes parts of his current district. It also is held by incumbent Republican Kevin Kiley. ABC 10's Becca Habegger spoke with both representatives today.
I will be running for re-election to the House of Representatives next year.
Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley isn't yet saying where he'll run. His current District 3 will be split among 6 different districts under the redrawn Prop 50 maps newly approved by voters.
I have not in any way, shape, or form decided or really even thought about where exactly I will land next year.
Asked if he'll challenge longtime Republican Congressman Tom McClintock in the redrawn 5th District, Kiley said,
I don't know where I'm running. I don't know where other people are running. What I can say with some confidence is that, wherever I run, it will be one of the 6 districts that includes part of my current district, because I want to at least be able to keep some of the same constituents. But that's why it's so hard, because it's like I can't continue to represent all of my constituents. So how do you choose, which folks you're going to continue to have the chance to represent?
I think we will focus on making sure we pick up these 5 new districts.
Democratic Congressman Ami Bera currently serves the 6th District and announced Tuesday night he'll run for District 3, newly redrawn in favor of a Democrat flipping the seat blue.
It'll still be 60% Sacramento County, and that's where I've spent most of my career in Congress. That's where we live. So want to keep working on those issues, but then bringing in Tahoe, Truckee, the forest issues, water issues.
Last month, former Democratic State Senator Dr. Richard Pan announced his campaign for the 3rd Congressional District. After Prop 50 passed on Tuesday night, he announced he'll be running for the newly redrawn District 6 instead.
I have to ask, did your office and Dr. Pan coordinate about dividing and conquering, not if you will, District 6 versus District 3, so you're not splitting the Democratic vote? How did that come to be?
No, we didn't. I was always just kind of focused on where I could make the biggest impact and the biggest difference.
Kiley points out the majority of voters in his current district rejected Prop 50.
Unfortunately, this was not something where each district gets to decide if it would like to remain as is. It's a statewide vote. And so the people of California have spoken.
Becca Habegger, ABC 10.
Now, whether or not they end up being opponents, Bera and Kiley can agree that the federal government shutdown needs to end, and they hope that happens soon. And with the passage of Prop 50, multiple candidates have launched their campaigns in these newly drawn districts. I want to bring in ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen, who is here to break down what we can expect to see on the ballot for the 2026 midterm elections.
Alex, since last night's election, I spoke with 3 people who all plan on trying to secure a seat in Congress and why they want to run in the districts they've chosen.
Dr. Richard Pan wants to work for the people, and that's why he's choosing to run for Congress in District 6, currently being held by Democrat Congressman Ami Bera.
There are too many families are struggling with lack of affordability, with being able to feed themselves, put a roof over their heads, and this administration is not addressing any of those issues.
Pan initially launched his campaign in District 3, but following the passage of Prop 50, Pan changed his focus to the newly drawn 6th district.
This is a district where I raised my family, we run our business, and I want to be sure that the people in this district are well represented. And I did that in the state legislature, and I'm looking forward to doing that in Congress.
Meanwhile, Republican Congressman Tom McClintock says he's deeply disappointed by the results of the election.
Prop 50 effectively disenfranchises millions of California voters who cast their votes for Republicans. Even though Republican candidates got, 40% of the vote in the last election, they're likely to receive only about 8% of the congressional seats in this state. That is the opposite of democracy.
Regardless of the changes, McClintock remains committed to his constituents in District 5 and will work to continue to serve them.
5th district that I represent is largely unchanged by this plan. About 80% of the population is the same. So, of course, I'll seek to continue to represent it in Congress.
Over in District 7, Sacramento City Council member Mai Vang says Prop 50 is a huge win for working families.
What we're seeing is that voters are choosing new leadership up and down the ballot. And that means that they're really done with the old politics that have failed working families, and they're ready for change.
Democrat Congresswoman Doris Matsui is the incumbent, and Vang acknowledges the challenges in winning votes. But she says she's going to stay focused on her campaign and promises to the voters in District 7.
Politicians that are backed by corporate PACs, backed by billionaires, we're seeing that they are starting to eye new congressional seats. And for us, we've been in this fight since the very beginning. And so we are still running for Congressional District 7.
Some other announcements include Democrat Congressman John Garamendi, who is seeking re-election in District 8, where he currently represents. As spokesperson for Democrat Congressman Josh Harder says he will also be looking for a re-election in his current District 9, which went through a lot of changes with the newly redrawn maps. Tyler Vandenberg is also exclusively telling ABC 10 Tonight he's going to now run in District 6 after initially launching his campaign in District 3. I do want to add we reached out multiple times to Senators Angelique Ashby and Mike McGuire and Representative Doris Matsui, but we did not get any comments, Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you for that update. And the California Republican Party announced that it will sue Governor Gavin Newsom over Proposition 50, saying the measure is unconstitutional. The lawsuit alleges the redrawn maps in the attempt to give Democrats a 5-seat advantage in Congress gerrymander by race, favoring Hispanic and Latino voters. The attorneys say that this is violation of the Voting Rights Act, which allows for race-based redistricting only when there is a problem of racism and that there is a problem that the majority is preventing the minority from being elected.
Question before the courts will be which maps are the voters going to be voting on in 2026.
We talked to political data expert Paul Mitchell, who spearheaded redrawing the maps.
It's one thing to challenge a redistricting plan and say this plan was passed in the dead of night. In this case, you have a redistricting map that was voted on by the public.
Mitchell declined to address specifics of the lawsuit, but says his focus was to push back against Texas. The attorneys say that they are pushing for a decision to be made before the 2026 candidate filing period, which starts next month. More changes could be on the way to this redistrict map. A citizens' initiative has now been filed with the California Attorney General to reinstate the California Redistricting Commission's congressional districts in 2028 rather than in 2030. The Fair, Independent, and Nonpartisan Redistricting Act, or FAIR, will appear on the November 2026 ballot if enough signatures are gathered and approved. The measure's lead proponent says the initiative is a way to guarantee the districts redrawn after the last census will be restored for the remainder of the decade. Last night was a big night for Democrats across the country. They won key races not only in California, but also New York City, New Jersey, and Virginia. Zohran Mamdani was elected and is the first Muslim and South Asian mayor of New York. The 34-year-old is a self-proclaimed Democratic socialist. And then let's go out over to Virginia. Abigail Spanberger is flipping control of the state and making history as the state's first female governor. President Donald Trump reacted to the results today during a breakfast with Senate Republicans.
If you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. And that was a big factor. And they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor.
Exit polls show the top concern among voters was affordability. Still head on to the point, if you've got a flight coming up, make sure you brace yourself while the FAA is grounding some planes. And the battle over presidential power heads to the nation's highest court, what it could mean for Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs.
Tracking the remnants of that weather impact alert storm, what's ahead for tonight and the next round of wet weather on the way.
But first, another headlines tonight.
We are moving from a rescue to a recovery mode. We do not expect to find anyone else alive.
The death toll continues to climb following yesterday's deadly UPS plane crash in Louisville, Kentucky. The transport plane burst into flames when it slammed into an industrial area around the Louisville airport. Investigators say the plane's left wing caught fire just before the fiery crash after takeoff. The U.S. economy added 42,000 private sector jobs last month. That's about 4,000 more than analysts expected. The numbers came from payroll processing company ADP. The ongoing government shutdown prevented the release of an official jobs report for October. A report for this month isn't expected either. And Starbucks workers could go on strike next week. A supermajority of unionized Starbucks baristas voted to authorize an unfair labor practice strike ahead of the holiday season. The union is gearing up to launch strikes in more than 25 cities on November 13th. Yeah, it was a wet and cold start to the day. The latest storm is bringing rain and wind to the region off and on throughout the day, making for some slippery conditions on the roads. The ABC 10 weather team still calling for a weather impact alert. Let's get things over to Chief Meteorologist, Monica Woods. Monica, I had to wear my rain boots into work today.
I know. It was just one of those sloppy days. We have our weather impact alert just for about the next 15 minutes until 7 p.m. The impact being the lingering showers and still some slippery roads out there. So just be aware now that the sun has set. Skies are very dark, and that could make for some hazardous conditions, especially in the foothills and the Sierra, where we're still seeing some slick spots. As far as the tap of moisture coming in from the Pacific, it really is trailing off, so we don't have much left with this weather system. That makes for a pretty good light the beam forecast for tonight. We'll see occasional cloud cover coming on through. That tip off in about 15 minutes at 7 p.m. against the Warriors out at Golden 1. What we're tracking, number one up on the list, is going to be morning low clouds. Recent rain, light winds makes for a pretty good recipe for those morning low clouds tomorrow. Second up on the list, temperature swing, and third, a bigger storm lineup heading our way next week. Highs for today only in the lower to mid 60s throughout the valley, 50s up top for the Sierra. We will see those temperatures jump up for tomorrow. After we get through some of those low clouds for the morning, we'll start to clear those skies, and that will leave us with a pretty nice Thursday afternoon. More clouds coming in for Friday through the weekend, but overall, we're going to be on the warmer side of our forecast as we head towards the end of the work week into the weekend. Highs in the 50s up top for this year, 50s and 60s down low for the foothills into our Thursday outlook. We're in the 60s and low 70s across the coast and for the coastal communities, including the capital region. Highs will be warming into the upper 60s to near 70 after morning lows in the 50s. A cool start to the day with some of those patchy low clouds starting us off on our commute out to work and school. Our extended forecast, we head into the end of the work week into the weekend with really warming conditions. That's our temperature swing into this second weekend of November, with highs warming to about 5 degrees above average. Now we're going to stay at that pace through early next week, which of course includes Veterans Day on Tuesday. Our highs in the low 70s, but right after that, we get into a bigger pattern shift. That's going to be a string of atmospheric rivers taking shape right now in the Pacific. And as you can see, those temperatures are going to be dropping into the 60s. We're calling for rain, snow, and gusty winds potentially into the middle of next week. We're going to watch out for that active weather headed our way.
All right, Monica, I guess I'll leave my rain boots out. Thanks. All right after the break, the government shutdown is in the longest in U.S. history, and it continues to drag on. Tonight, the growing fallout from stalled negotiations to record-breaking household debt. And as the shutdown stretches on, paychecks are paused and families are really feeling the pinch. How one local food bank is stepping up to meet a growing need. Get ready for limited flights across the country. The Federal Aviation Administration said today it plans to reduce air traffic by 10% across 40 high-volume markets beginning Friday. Air traffic controllers have been working unpaid since the government shutdown began on October 1st. With some calling out of work, staffing shortages have led to flight delays at a number of U.S. airports. FAA Administrator Brian Bedford said the new measures would go beyond commercial airspace to include restrictions to space launches.
When we see pressures building in these 40 markets, we just can't ignore it, and we're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us we can take action today to prevent, things from deteriorating.
The list of affected markets will be released sometime tomorrow. It's now day 36 of the government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. More than 1 million federal workers are in week 6 without pay. Both sides unwilling to budge. Democrats are standing firm as they push to extend expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies to keep insurance premiums from rising.
Leader Jeffries and I this morning demanded that Donald Trump sit down and meet with us to address the health care crisis.
To end the stalemate, the president again today called for Senate Republicans to do away with its filibuster rule, the so-called nuclear option. Then they'd be able to reopen the government with a simple majority vote.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it.
And another sign of the times, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York today reports Americans' household debt hit a new record high, reaching more than $18 trillion from July through September. The decision of whether President Trump's tariffs are constitutional is officially in the Supreme Court's hands. Today, justices heard arguments in what is widely considered the most economically consequential case in decades. The Supreme Court is considering whether Trump had the right to use his economic emergency powers when he imposed the tariffs. Trump used his executive powers by saying trade imbalances and the flow of fentanyl cause a national security emergency. Plaintiffs today argued trade disputes are not an emergency, and only Congress has the power to set tariffs. Some justices were skeptical of how the president alone imposed the tariffs. What is less clear is whether the justices interpret a tariff as a tax, which is controlled by Congress, or a regulation, which the president may have the power to decide. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on the issue by next spring. Still ahead, we visit a local food bank where demand is soaring, plus how you can help feed families in need this holiday season. As the government shutdown drags on, programs and paychecks are on hold and families are struggling to make ends meet. Right now, communities are stepping up as federal aid runs dry. We checked in with the Elk Grove Food Bank today, where the need is surging with no end in sight.
You know what makes me angry and really upset? When I got here a few hours ago this morning, I saw young children looking at me when I passed out the food, and seeing the sort of that hopelessness in their eyes is unacceptable to me.
And we do want to mention ABC 10, Wells Fargo, and the Athletics are teaming up for our annual Stand Against Hunger campaign, which means now through December 12th, ABC 10 is raising money for 7 local food banks to help feed people in need this holiday season. For a list of those participating food banks and how you can help, you can always go to abc10.com/standagainsthunger. But look, if you want to donate $1, $5, I'm telling you, $1 goes a long way. You can even email my team directly at tothepoint@abc10.com. I will personally send you the information. We can't express how far $1 can really go. And during these times when a lot of folks are struggling, and not just because of the holidays, but a lot of people are struggling right now, there's just little things that we can do, like $1, a smile, check on your neighbor, see how someone's doing. It can really probably help someone out. That is our show tonight. As always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your home. And don't forget, you can always download the free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app to catch up on any news that you missed. I'll see you tomorrow.